This is Talk is Sheep, a podcast by the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Come along as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Good morning, Mr. Stephen Hamilton.
Well, it's afternoon now. It's 12:30.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Oh, goodness. Okay.
Long days.
Yeah. What a cool episode. We welcome J. Alain Smith to the show. It's never a dull moment whenever he talks, whenever he's always performing, right? So, no exception on this one. It's a great podcast with him. So,
oh, yeah. I've wanted to put this one together for, at least 30, 40 episodes now, and it finally worked together. And as you say, he's always on, quite the character, and yeah, just a great time. Some great stories, and I'm sure this will be a fun listen for everybody.
Yeah, this has definitely been one of my my favorite episodes for sure. And the big thing for me is Alain is very he's flamboyant. He's out there. He's always on. But he's also a humble guy, right? And he cares about the same thing we do. And he's super driven about conservation, super driven about giving back. So, I've always respected him, first and foremost for his conservation ethic. To be honest, that was always been where I've tipped my hat to him. And then, of course, kick butt hunter, man. He's killed everything everywhere, right? So,
totally. And I love what he says in there. He's not a collector of hunts or animals. He's a collector of experiences, and that's truly what it's all about, right? And I think he's got something 355 different species or something as of 2015 when he won the Conklin Award. So who knows where he's at now.
Yeah, no, it's super cool to talk to him. And I love his outlook on different things and, mentorship. And, I never really thought about it, and I think of J. Alain, I don't think of mentorship and him taking guys and gals out, getting them into the hunting environment and that sort of stuff. But he talks about how important that is. So yeah, just a great message from him today. And anyway, some housekeeping stuff before we jump onto the episode. We won't dwell on it too much, but hey, we're 1 month until the opener for sheep.
Yep. This time in a month, people will be heading north or actually flying in or hiking in and sitting down and waiting for a couple of days for the opener. So how fast does time really go, right? It's crazy when you look at it. It's like, what? Here we are again. So are you going on a sheep hunt this year? No, you're going in October, September.
September, right? Yeah. Doing a September trip, and really excited about it. Looking forward to it. And I wouldn't miss it for the world. Just another opportunity to get out there and see them in their landscape, man. That's, if I see a sheep, it's as good as harvesting one. Well, okay, maybe not quite as good.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty epic. So just for our listeners, if you're not a member, we'd love to have you join the society. We've got a really cool membership drive on. We've talked about it before. That's still going. It's only on for another month and 6 weeks or something like that. So we're giving away a sturgeon fishing trip on the Fraser River. Wood Wheat is our sponsor on that. Love to have you join as a member. Alain talks lots about giving back on this episode. So this is something that Steve and I take seriously. It's something that J. Alain Smith takes seriously. And, if we don't start getting involved, we don't start giving back, we're not going to be able to do what we love. So this is kind of our plea to you. Hey, get involved, buy a membership. If it doesn't work for you with the society, maybe for whatever reason, you have an interest elsewhere, then buy one with your local fish and game club, support a national organization. I don't care which one. We'd love to have you. We want a stronger voice for wild sheep in the province. Our parent organization, Wild Sheep Foundation, they're doing great work. But just get involved. And maybe it's not sheep, maybe it's goats or elk or moose or whatever the case, but just get involved.
Yeah. One membership, 1 day a year. Hell, you can even start getting involved by just simply sending a letter to your MLA and saying, hey, the way Fish and Wildlife and Habitat is being managed in British Columbia isn't acceptable to me, and you need to do more. We see all these other organizations that are on the other side of the spectrum will say to us, they're right out there front and center yelling and screaming from the hilltops about how bad hunting is. And we saw it 5 years ago now with the grizzly hunt, how we lost it because we weren't loud enough, we weren't vocal enough, and we weren't engaging our MLAs. And anybody who knows me knows I have no problem engaging elected officials, and every single one of them I have talked to has said the same thing, no matter what side of the house they're on. If they are in government or if the opposition or if they're the ones independent or sitting in the middle, every single one of them has said if all hunters would come together and send emails in a united voice, we would win. We just need to do it. So we've got the numbers. We just, as Kyle said, get involved, start small, get a membership somewhere, engage your MLA. Hell, you need help reaching out, feel free to fire an email to communications at wildsheepsociety.com and ask. We'll help you out. We'll tell you who your MLA is and tell you some talking points. So off my box a little bit there, I can continue.
Yeah, well said, Steve. No, I have to agree with everything you just stated there. And so with that, we're off to episode 80 with Mr. J. Alain Smith. Enjoy the listen. Thanks for listening to Talk is Sheep.
Across Canada and throughout the world, if you come across a campfire in the woods, on a mountaintop, or next to a river, you'll find warm company and friendly people gathered around. Regardless of your lifestyle or place you call home, we invite you to learn more about what it means to be a hunter in the modern era. If you love the outdoors, care about where your food comes from, and are concerned for the future of wildlife and the environments that they need to survive, pull up a seat. We have a story to tell. Welcome to our campfire.
Mr. J. Alain Smith, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. And this is going to work out good because I don't know if you guys know, but I can speak fluent Canadian.
You got one up on us then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, you were born and raised in Prince Albert, I think, wasn't it?
Yep. Beautiful Prince Albert, and then lived in the Yukon for a while, and then down in Vancouver. And actually, all my family's still in Canada, except my mom and dad and brothers.
Right on. You're down in Washington State there now, I believe, right?
I am. Yep. In the wrong side of the state, in as far as being a big game hunter, but it works out,
Yeah, absolutely, and certainly the right side of the border, the international border, when it comes to paying taxes. So,
yes, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, awesome. So, hey, I look behind you there, and I see a pretty impressive wall. It looks like you maybe have done some mountain hunting in your time, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's one of those vices that you pick up, and it's always been, I would say, my biggest passion has been getting up in the mountains. And certainly the biggest challenge in the hunting world is, the mountain species. North American sheep specifically are for sure one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult animals to get. So, it's been a great challenge and love doing it. And the only problem you run into is the longer you do it, the harder it gets, I'm finding. So, as many old guys that sheep hunt say, do it while you're young. Problem is usually you don't have any money when you're young to be able to go and do it, but save up and go while you're young.
Yeah, well said. So I guess, did you grow up, as we know, you're a Saskatchewan boy at birth, did you grow up hunting whitetails, or where did this love for the mountains come from?
We actually moved to the States when I was fairly young, so I didn't get in any hunting in Canada. My dad took us out in the outdoors a lot, fishing and camping and things like that. He wasn't a big game hunter. My mom had grown up on a farm in Saskatchewan, so, they were used to, killing to eat. And we had a neighbor that got my brother and I into bird hunting when we were probably 13-ish. And, loved it at first try. And he would take us over. And my folks are real supportive of it. My dad just grew up in Vancouver, so, he never had the chance to do it. But that guy got us into it. And then as soon as I got a car at, let's say, 16, and a hunting dog, we would drive from the Seattle side of Washington to the eastern side where all of our pheasant and ducks and quail are. And we'd go over there all the time. And that's what started the, best and worst vice I have.
Certainly probably one of the most expensive anyway. So
Yeah. Then there's
yeah.
that.
Yeah, very cool. So you kind of hunted all over the world now, and you've had an opportunity, and you're well known for your international hunts, and certainly your North American hunts as well, and mountain hunting. What kind of stands out as, if you think back over your quote hunting career, what stands out as sort of that pinnacle hunt for you?
A wilderness sheep hunt, whether that's in Alberta, in the Yukon, northern BC, they're for sure the greatest adventures you can do. You do the horseback in, then the climbing from there. You're out with what you can carry on your back. I was blessed with living in Alaska for quite a few years, and we were able to go Dall sheep hunting, on our own without a guide, which was, about as cool as it gets. And it was early in my career, so I didn't know squat about, sheep hunting or judging or anything like that. And I didn't have a lot of sense about, getting as close as possible with the plane. In most of Alaska, it's very difficult, to get in with super cubs and that, unless you're with an outfitter that's got an area. But as an independent trying to get out there in the Brooks Range and stuff, the guy would take you as close as you could. And then, me and a buddy would just put our packs on and start walking and start glassing, climb to the first mountain and see if you could see anything and go to the next one and keep going. And we would actually get in there so remote that our policy was we'd only take one sheep between the two of us each year because we couldn't carry two out. So it was great. Real adventure.
Yeah, no, that's the real deal, right? That's the DIY sheep hunting in Alaska doesn't get any more badass than that for sure. So very cool.
It was a blast, and really enjoyed our time up there. And then you had all the other animals too that you could hunt up there. And that's really what got me into big game hunting everywhere. Was once I started, getting the chance to go and do all the hunting in Alaska, then you wanted to, go on to other things. And, and one thing led to another. And well, maybe I should go to Russia and see what they got for sheep. And, then they got those stupid goats there. And what is it? Tajikistan or Kyrgyzstan or whatever that is. And yeah.
So, you've kind of ticked the box on a lot of stuff, and I know you're a big supporter of GSCO, and there's not too many awards that you've won in the hunting world, and I mean, like all of them. You've been a recipient of the Conklin Award, so many different awards over the years, and with the different achievements through GSCO, you've gotten so many awards there. Wild sheep. So you've been to Africa, done the Big Five. So what is a guy like you? What do you wake up in the morning and go, what am I gonna go do now? Like, where do you go from here? Is there still stuff that you want to hunt that you haven't hunted, or have you ticked every single box that you kind of wanted to do?
Right now, every once in a while, a new species will come up. But to be honest with you, I'm really not into the whole species thing anymore. And I like to think that I'm a collector of experiences, not a collector of animals. Of species goes hand in hand. But if it wasn't for being a collector, I would never have gone to Liberia. I would never have gone to Yakutia, Russia. All the stands. Why would you go to Pakistan unless you wanted to, kill the animals that are there? So it's been a great run. But to be honest with you now, I still sheep hunt as much as I can, if I can get drawn or, find a permit somewhere. I was just down in Mexico, desert bighorn hunting this past spring. And so that was great. And I still like doing that. I go to Africa still every year and kill Cape buffalo. It's kind of a passion for those of you that have watched my YouTube channel. I think probably half our stuff is Cape buffalo. I know I should be more diverse. Don't send me any hate mail, but it is pretty damn fun, chasing Cape buffalo. So I like doing that. And I'm really into bird hunting, duck hunting and upland birds and that, and spend a lot of time doing that as well. So, but, I'm not hunting, my good years, I used to hunt about 250 days a year, and I'm down to about 120, these days. So I'm kind of slacking off.
So on that note, with your stuff, a lot of your stuff is videoed now and through your different channels and show and stuff like that. Does that change it for you? Like, does it change it like from when you were like that guy back in flying into the Brooks Range and hoofing it on foot and dragging one sheep out between the two of you? Obviously you didn't have a bunch of camera gear and all that kind of stuff. So does that change how you hunt, and does it make it more enjoyable, less enjoyable? How does that work for you? Is it change things?
I would say it's just a different experience, and it's for sure different. You have people around you all the time. You're on stage every moment from the time you get up in the morning till you go to bed, because you never know when that clip's going to happen. It keeps you a lot soberer, by the way. You can't be on camera, drink, say 3:00 in the afternoon. Not that anyone would do that, of course, in Africa, but it's different. I was lucky in that when it came to making the show, that I'd already been hunting a lot. So when we started doing the show 10 years ago, I didn't have any pressure. It wasn't like, hey, if we don't get this shot on this animal, that it's the end of the world. Some of the species that we did get on camera were a first for me, but like a Cape buffalo hunt, if it's not a good setup, it's okay. We can find another one. Or if you're deer hunting and you pass one up, or the cameraman's not ready or whatever, those things happen. But I can't really say that it was a lot of pressure. It wasn't something that I ever didn't not like doing. It was more that it became a job. And that is a different ball game, to be in the hunting industry and have it be a job with all the sponsorships and the promotions and things like that. So you went from just going hunting and having fun to now it's a business, and it's a rough business. It's its own ball game. So anybody thinking of doing it, you might want to think twice.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from people I know that are in the industry. They say that it's exactly that. It becomes a job, and you're expected to perform to a certain level, and it's not about getting out and having fun. And you got to make sure the shot is perfect and the lighting is great. I did a turkey hunt in April of this year. First time tried to get it on film, and saw firsthand just how difficult that was in 2 days. So I can't imagine doing it as a career. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and the travel involved, especially for what we were doing with international stuff, is mainly what we've done on the show. And I'm lucky. I've the best cameraman on the face of the earth, Jeff Parker. Jeff, if you're listening, you're the man. You're the man. Thank you for everything you've done. You stood there with charging buffalo and didn't flinch, hoping and praying that I killed the damn thing, and climbed mountains all over the world. I mean, the guy's just one of those great, tough guys, never complains, shows up on time. Just, I'm blessed to have a guy like that, because they're not all like that. And I've had a couple of those before him that were that way. But, when you have a cameraman that breaks down and has a nervous breakdown and starts crying in Liberia and, doesn't want to leave his tent, that makes for a long hunt.
That sounds like a typical sheep hunt for me, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's not 110 degrees and raining.
Yeah. So Alan, like for yourself, you don't need, this isn't your day job, right? So this isn't what pays your bills. So for you, is it the challenge? Is it the excitement of getting it? And this, because we know you're a performer. You're on the stage. You're always performing. You're performing for us today. You're a musician. You're a book writer, a storyteller. Is it about telling the story, or is it what drives you to do this sort of stuff?
Well, the original. I don't know if I should say. I'm going to say it anyhow. What do I have to lose now? The original reason why we did it, literally, started the show, was we were sitting around in a camp, and there was 3 or 4 of us, and we were all complaining about outdoor TV, and that show after show after show was about shooting a deer over a pile of corn from a tree stand. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Done it lots, no moral, not anything wrong with that. But I don't need to watch 39 shows on Saturday that are the same exact show. So when we were complaining about it, one of the guys said, well, maybe Mr. Smarty Pants, you ought to just do one on your own and see, if you can do one better. So I said, well, maybe I will. And that dare turned into getting with Tom Miranda, the great bow hunter and who has tons of shows, and a friend of mine, and he helped start the production and get things organized. And I happened to be lucky that I had a camera along when first show we ever filmed was a Cashmere Markhor. So I got that edited, and then I'd done a Suleiman Markhor as well. So we kind of started at a pinnacle of great species and great location. What more exotic place can you have than, hunting with the Taliban and, in Pakistan and all the, wild culture and, great people there. But so anyhow, it just kind of evolved from there. And then because we were doing different locations than most people are doing, I think that really helped. And one other thing too was so many people take themselves excessively seriously on other shows whose names will not be mentioned. And I like to watch shows that are entertaining and that are going to be something different that, makes you want to watch. And we kind of went with that shtick that, we're going to throw some music in, we're going to throw some skits in. They might be hokey, but we're going to break it up and have something besides just the same old thing that you see. And so that format worked for us really well. And now that we've switched to YouTube and streaming on Amazon, it's been great because now we have an international audience. We have fans from all over the world that can watch instead of before when we were on network TV. You're really restricted. As an example, like Canadians couldn't get the channels. So now anybody can watch the shows when they want. And the sponsorship model followed with us. So it's been great.
Yeah, right on. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit, I guess, about, there's a lot of young people that want to get into international hunting. They want to go and, lots of experiences, and there's quite a few barriers, expenses, obviously one of the biggest ones, but there's others too. So I guess for somebody that's aspiring to sort of kick off their international hunting, maybe they've killed a few sheep in North America, or all of them, or for that matter, and they want to go do something else. How does somebody kind of get into that, and how kind of you steer them in that direction to sort of get involved in that overseas hunting?
Get with a outfitter, booking agent, and pick species that are in your budget. Don't, because sooner or later you're going to want them all. Speaking from experience. So, if you want to go to Asia, there's reasonably priced hunts. The chamois hunts are reasonably priced, reasonable being a relative term, but you don't have to go on $100,000 hunt. There's a lot, in the $10,000 to $15,000 category that a guy can go on, and some cheaper than that as well. But look at the opportunity to go and get the most bang for your buck that you can while you're building up your resources for other trips. That's my biggest advice, unless you just have in your heart set that, hey, you want to go shoot a Marco Polo. And that's the first thing you want to go do, which I would discourage anybody going to Asia from doing that as your first hunt anyhow, because it can be a very difficult hunt because of altitude and long range shooting. And there's some hanky panky that goes on over there with the, animals and recovery and blah, blah, blah. But, Turkey, great country to go hunting in. You got Bezoar ibex, you got chamois, you got wild boar, you got all kinds of great stuff there. Some sheep, you got the stags there. Reasonably priced place to go. Guy can go do, of course, the European animals, not as exotic as going to Europe and that. And some of the Russian hunts too are not that badly priced. And if you're young and fit and you can go do any of those Eastern Russian hunts, your Koryaks and your Yakutias and things like that, bang for your buck. Yeah, they're going up in price every day, but those are very difficult hunts. Those are North American hunts, sheep hunts. There's no easy way. You got to climb and you got to rough it, and they're a good hunt. So I think that'd be the place to start, is to start looking around at what you've got in your budget and what are you capable of doing. And you're going to learn about all the games that happen in Asia and Russia. It's always something. The plane doesn't show up when it's supposed to. The guy's not there to meet you. You got to bribe some official to get your, gun through. Well, not that you'd ever do that. I guess I should backtrack on that one. No one would ever pay a bribe internationally. But, the lousy food, the jet lag, all the things that go along with international travel, you want to start out with something that, you can do, and don't burn a huge amount of money on something like that and be disappointed because you weren't really prepared for it.
And I guess the other side of it too is kind of choosing an outfitter, because I know, talking to Daryl Hosker, our friend there, he's always, really cautious with us when we're trying to source hunts and stuff like that, because there are, different high fence hunts or, all kinds of different stuff that on the surface, it looks pretty normal. And then, but so how does a guy go about that? I guess, that circle, that community of international hunters, you kind of almost need some references to know where and what you can hunt, right?
It's besides giving back to conservation, it's the reason to go to the conventions. It's the reason to belong to your local chapters, whether that's Safari Club, whether that's Grand Slam, Wild Sheep, any of the great organizations are out there, Dallas, all of them, and the local chapter level especially. I think it's real important to be involved locally, because you meet guys that you've never met before. I'll give you an example. I live in the Seattle area, outside of Seattle, but we have a ton of big game hunters here, which you think, not Seattle, left-wing capital of the world. No, there's a bunch. And when you go to these events and you meet these people, you get to talk to them about, hey, where have you been? What have you been doing? Do you recommend this guy? What did you get while you were there? How much did you pay? You learn a lot of inside info that you wouldn't pick up by just going and sitting across the desk from the outfitter that may or may not be telling you the full story. I rarely go on a hunt unless it's an exploratory, first time to Liberia type of a hunt or something like that, or first person to go to a place, that I don't have a recommendation from somebody whose judgment I trust. Daryl, as an example, we talk all the time about, hey, have you ever hunted with this guy? And he'll go, no, the guy's a flea bag. I got burned and I did this, this, and this. But here's a guy that I went with that I got something. Okay, great. That's the communication that's real important. Like anything, There's good guys and bad guys out there. Most of them are good, I do have to say. Right. But and the other thing is that a guy may be good this year, but 3 or 4 years from now, he loses his area. He's had problems. Make sure you're talking to somebody that's been there lately.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, lots of pitfalls with that international stuff, eh? And so, yeah, get your feet wet and then go for your big stuff. Don't waste your money on something big and then realize, you're make some mistakes on a cheaper hunt and then figure your way forward.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Learn how to travel.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about you. When you think back, is there one particular hunt that stands out? Anything in like one specifically? Share a story with us that's etched in your mind forever.
Let's see. Probably. I mean, the worst hunt I was ever on was polar bear hunting. Just because it's a miserable hunt. You're out on the ice. It's dangerous. But the locals may or may not be prepared. Mine weren't. I was going, years and years ago, and I was able to actually get mine back in the U.S. in those days. But it's just a lousy hunt, from start to finish. I've never wanted to get out of a place so bad in my life. Luckily, the one and only bear that we saw was a good one because he was going to die. And, but that was probably the most miserable. You know, when you look at the equipment that you're using and you realize that your garage has 10 times better stuff sitting in it that I could have brought had they told me that we were going to be at 35 below, you know, and be staying in a pup tent with a Coleman stove for a heater, and that's it. And it only gets turned on when they're cooking the frozen meat and canned beans that they brought, you know, 3 square meals a day. So that kind of a thing, you know, it just, that was pretty miserable. You know, getting charged by a Cape buffalo is not much fun. That one's, you know, buffalo stick out in your mind for that reason. I've had a couple of those. I did have one brown bear charge, which was kind of a, how would you put it, bit of a life-changing experience where we had seen 2 big bears, one bigger than the other, of course, and bear had worked its way back up the beach while the big one that we were looking at was still laying down. And the bear just, for some reason, it saw us and it got up and started huffing, and here it came. And I've been around bears because I lived in Alaska. I actually spent a lot of time in Kodiak for many, many years. So I've been around bears a lot. And maybe I'd lost respect for them when I look back on it, that I should not have been, you know, calling his mother's names and stuff like that when he was huffing and puffing at us. You know, they'll make out, you know, and they stomp the ground when they get mad. But I've seen them doing it on rivers and stuff before when you're catching salmon next to them and things like that, or when they steal your deer and you just let them take it. But this one, for some reason, he decided that he was coming and he charged, and the guide was yelling, shoot. And I still kept thinking, nah, he's going to stop. You know, he'll come to 15 yards and pull up and make a big scene and rip some stuff up and leave. Never slowed down. So we both shot instantaneously at 8 yards and center punched him with 375s, and he rolled over and kept coming. And I put one in his eyeball, and that killed him. But that's probably one I'll remember forever.
Was that one on video?
No, it's not, unfortunately, but the whole
okay.
story is in one of my books. I think it's in Adventures in Wild Places, if I remember right.
Okay, I remember seeing a video like that about 10 years ago on the internet. Very similar. I'm like, I wonder if that's the same one.
Yeah, no, that was before we were filming, unfortunately, because it, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have one charge, it would have been great to have it on camera, but no, it was. And then, of course, now it was a decent bear. It turned out to be a, you know, just missed book. So it was a decent bear, thank God. But now you got to carry him out of there. And then, you know, the post-traumatic stress syndrome that they talk about. It was funny that me and the guide got back to the cabin that we were staying in, and we couldn't go to sleep. So we got up and we drank a bottle of booze. That didn't work. So, you know, you were just so jacked up, and it finally sunk in, you know, how close of a call it was, that it was pretty good adventure.
That's crazy. You know, you get, you know, bears are so unpredictable. You get some that no interest whatsoever. You can walk by them every day, 10 feet away. They don't care. And then others that they're going to kill you no matter what. Right? And they're so, you never know which one you're getting.
Yeah, it's wacky. I don't know.
Huh.
Like I say, I think that I've been around them so much that I just never thought it would happen. You know, you can yell at them and walk towards them and make a scene, and they usually, you know, will back up or, you know, let a round go, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. On a Kodiak, it doesn't seem to do much. You know, they've been heard shots before, but.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting. So I guess that's probably your scariest experience hunting. So that obviously is a close call with an animal. Anything, you know, getting in trouble, like cliffed out or anything like that, where you think you're going to die? Because most of my experiences when I think I was ever going to die in the mountains, it was always doing stupid shit, like, you know, messing around on a mountain or whatever. It wasn't, you know, we've had a few close calls with bears, nothing like that. But yeah, there's been a few times where I've been a little, things were sketchy, but it was because of my own doings, not because of an animal.
Yeah, I had one, we were in Russia on the Kamchatka Peninsula doing the Kamchatka Bighorn. And it just had terrible weather, you know, where you lost the first half of the hunt just sitting in the tent. fog right down on the deck. It was just nothing you could do. So finally the weather clears. Well, and of course, no interpreter in the mountains. You're just on your own trying to get by with the guides, because the interpreter is a city guy who's, in the last place in town waiting for you to come back. So, you do a lot of hand signals and drawings and put rocks on the ground and, move them around and do all that kind of stuff. And I finally realized after 2 days of hiking that the sheep that they had seen that they were planning on us killing, they were gone. So now we just started freelancing, and we took an overnight, our pack with a sleeping bag in case we had to overnight, but we just had to start walking to find them. And of course there's no airplanes to spot them. There's no pre-scouting. They kind of have an idea where they are. Some areas they use helicopters, or they used to, especially in the old days, to know where they were. But nowadays there's very little helicopter spotting because of the expense. But anyhow, so we took off. Well, we got up onto this area where we'd seen a sheep, and there was kind of this sheer cliff. And we knew that the sheep from where we'd been before was up on this bench, and the way the wind was blowing, if I went around the backside and I told these two Russians, they wanted to just climb up and jump shoot him or something. I don't know what the plan was, but it wasn't going to work out. So I'm blessed with not being afraid of heights. So I just figured, well, I'll just climb up this cliff. No problem. I'll sneak up over the top. He'll be 100 yards away. I'll whack him and they can wait for me. So I got up there, and anybody who's a mountain hunter, I'm sure, has been into this position before, where going up is always easier than coming down when you're using your hands and your feet and you've got your gun slung over your back. So I got up to a point where I couldn't go any further. There was a gap of about, 3 feet between me and the next step. And there was a little chasm in the rock that was there. And I don't know how far down it was, but it was a long ways. It was long enough that, you weren't going to, come out of it with just a broken leg. So you have no choice, right? And so I said, well, I'm going to have to go down. Well, I started to come down, and now I can't come down because I can't see the footholds below where I'm at. So I went back up, and I just figured, well, here we go. And my safety plan was, if I fall, at least I'll be in the chasm in the rock, and I can at least pin myself somehow in there, so I won't at least fall all the way to the bottom. So that was my safety net, Al Smith 101 plan. And luckily I jumped across and grabbed a hold of the other side, and long story short, I got the sheep. But that was one of those, young and dumb things that you think back and go, it's just for a sheep, listen to the guides.
Yeah. That's telltale. When the guides are saying don't do it, it's probably good advice, eh?
Yeah, and they live there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, very cool. Okay, can we talk a little bit about let's talk about well, I was doing some research for the podcast, and I found you on Spotify. I found your album on Spotify. So do we want to talk music, or do we want to talk books? Which one are we going to talk about first?
Let's talk music. Why not?
Sure. I see your guitar there. Did you want to do a song for us, or what's
it's a little early in the day and I haven't been drinking yet. So,
okay.
Oh yeah, there's my hummingbird.
Yeah.
I have a studio down here. There's a bunch of stuff over there, but I've been really blessed. I got a brother, Monty Smith, who's on all the songs with me. He's got a recording studio, and he's a pretty famous dude in the music industry. He's played with Tower of Power and Johnny Winter and Ricky Nelson, and wow, they're all dead. But anyhow, he's a very talented musician, and he's got a first-class studio here in the Northwest. So it's really lucky for me that I get to go into his studio and we record songs, and we did all the music for the shows. So anything you hear on there, even some of the sound effects and that, which was really fun to do, get in there and try and come up with some new, background stuff for the show. So that was good. And we've always been in bands, like in college and high school. And it's the one thing that Monty's not a big game hunter. if you've watched a couple of our Uganda shows, Monty's been in there with us, and he's one of the funniest human beings on the face of the earth. So it's always great to have him there for, coming up with script ideas and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been fun. And, the problem with music, like so many things, there's 0.1% of musicians that can make a living at it. And the rest, you can't make squat. It's like being an artist, or I guess, anything that's creative. It's very difficult to make money. So luckily I got some common sense and got a job besides, but we still play and always have, and like performing. But the live venues are getting tough nowadays, especially after COVID, to find places to play in that, but still writing, working on one right now. It has to do with, I like women that wear a wig. So it should be a pretty good video.
Okay. I can only imagine. Oh, goodness. Excellent. So when are we expecting that? When will that be out?
We're going into the studio on it in 2 weeks, around the 26th, I think it is, with the studio booked. So for the recording, and then that'll take a couple days, and then we've got to do the video, but I'm trying to keep it low budget. I don't want to end up going with, supermodels that are wearing wigs and all that. And of course we have to keep it PG rated because that's the way we roll. So that cuts out a lot of great material, but we'll see. And I'm not sure who's going to be wearing the wigs,
I can only imagine.
I don't want to imagine.
Yeah, exactly. If you've seen the Safari rap video, and if you haven't, go on there and see that. There's some cross-dressing involved in that, and there may be some in this next video too. So
awesome.
But I guess that's okay nowadays. So
well, maybe this would be a great venue. We could have something at Sheep Week, maybe.
Yeah. How do you identify this week at Sheep Week?
Yeah. Well, actually, we're looking. I'm one of the on the committee for the Life Member Breakfast, and actually, that would be to have you perform that at the Life Member Breakfast. I bet we'd get pretty good numbers if we had you doing that for us.
Yeah. Do I have to wear a wig or not?
Well, I don't know. It's your video, so we're not going to decide. So, excellent. Okay, let's talk about the book. So, what are the motivations for the book? I know a little bit of the backstory, but how did you get into the writing side of things? I know you got so many stories, but tell us about that evolution and then how that turned into a conservation story.
Originally started out doing magazine articles, and I encourage everybody who's listening that has any passion at all about writing, take the time, put your words down. You may think you suck at it, but with practice, you'll get better. Of course, nowadays with computers, it's way easier because of spell check and thesaurus that's in there and sentence structure and things like that. So you can write a good story. And I started doing them for magazines, different types of trips and things like that. And when I got paid the first time for an article, it was like, you got to be kidding me. Because it's like anything else that you do artistically that, you do it because you love doing it. And all of a sudden, I get a check for $2,000 for a, magazine article for National Magazine. I'm like, holy crap. It's not going to pay for, sheep hunts, but it's a start. But even just doing it for your local chapters magazines, sending them into the organizations with photos, we really need more material out there. Put them out on your Facebook page or your Instagram account or whatever, but people want to see them. I think, and they don't have to be long, just a recap or anything like that, but certainly go out and do them. And for me, it became a deal where I had enough material after magazine articles for a couple of years that I could, and I was getting more and more prolific at it, mainly because the more I traveled, the more time I had on airplanes with nothing to do for hours. And, you go overseas, you got 2 8-hour trips back to back. So I would take a small little traveling laptop with me, still do to this day. And, rather than watch some movie, I just write and put headphones on and away you go, and you can have a lot of time with no interruptions. So other than, would you like another cocktail, Mr. Smith? So that's how I started doing it. And once I got into it, the first one, Close Calls and Hunting Adventures, you don't expect to sell many anyhow, because you don't have any following. I didn't have a show at the time. It was my first book I'd ever done. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go to all this work and I'm going to get this thing published and do it all, why not do it for a good cause? And so I just made a policy that from all the hunting books that I've did from that point on, all the profits from it, all the revenue that we get from it, not the profit, it all goes to conservation. So it goes to the various organizations. Each one of them has received funding from it. And so it's just a good reason to, work hard at it and to see other people contributing, at $35 a shot, but hey, it's a starter and, money's for a good cause. It's not just for me to go and kill more poor innocent, deer.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to jump into that bit in shortly about the conservation side, but let's talk about the books. Let's talk about what you got out there, where people can get them, why they should buy them. Well, we know why they should buy them. You just talked about the conservation side of it, but let's just talk a little about your books and where people can grab them if they're interested.
Yeah, the hunting books, you can get them at jalansmith.com, or you can get them through Amazon. Most of the organizations all sell them as well. We do book signings at all the conventions. And the hunting books are all based on a series of short stories. So they'll be anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 words and have photos in them as well. And I think there's 6 hunting books now. The latest one is the Chasing the Adventure that has the great painting by John Banovich, the artist, on the cover, who's a friend of mine and did a beautiful work. And he's got original drawings inside all the books. And it's I think one of the biggest compliments I ever got about my hunting books, they have lots of photos in them, was that my hunting books are a lot like Playboy magazine in that the photos are a lot better than the writing.
Yeah. Excellent.
But so they're and there's stories in there, everything from sheep hunting to brown bears to hunting around the world, a little bit of everything. Obviously some Cape buffalo in there as well, but I try to mix them up so it's just not one book about one species, and that's been a successful format for us.
Awesome. So anything new in the works? You got your new song coming out. You're going to record. You got a new book on the go?
Yep. I'm working on a new book, which is a buffalo book, specifically about that, after I just said that all my books have multiple stories. But this one's going to be all about Cape buffalo, everything from calibers to stories to, reasons to go buffalo hunting, reasons to not go buffalo hunting, things like that. So lots of action in it. And then I also have 3 novels, and I've been plugging away at a 4th. There's a series of novels. The first one is called It's Not a Game Anymore. And the novels are unique in that, for me anyhow, because they're kind of outside my normal realm. My business and my audience is the hunting world. The one thing that's odd about novels is that they reach a bigger audience and they sell way better than hunting books, just because of the population that would read a novel versus a book about killing elephants. So I do have a publisher that I'm supposed to be committing to, and I have not, because I'm not far enough along on it. But the novels are based on action hero who is one of us, and opens in the Central African Republic when he's on a safari, and there's some kidnapping and his young wife gets taken, and I'll leave it at that. But it's lots of adventure, and they've done really well. I'm very proud of them and blessed to have a great audience for them.
Excellent. So you're working on a new one in that novel series.
Yep, on the fourth one, but it's going slower, to be honest with you, than the hunting one. Novels are hard to write. There's a lot to them.
Yeah. Now with that, was the novel a corollary of these short stories? So was it just an outcome of that? We've seen the recent one that, Jack's got his series out now. I know Jim Shockey's working on a novel series as well. I haven't heard. Last time I talked to Jim, he was working with the publisher. I'm not sure where he's at with that now. But so is that, how did that evolution come about, I guess? So.
By the way, speaking of Jack, if any of you listeners have not read his books, go online, get them. Incredible. And of course, the first one's being turned into a movie. But great work. I mean, I can't say enough about his work. And he's a hunter and outdoorsman, besides being, great military hero as well. But the first novel evolved when I was in a camp in the middle of the Central African Republic. And while I was there, one of their revolutions happened, probably the last big one that they had. So we were stuck there. We couldn't get out of the country. A bunch of other things happened, which is a fairly long story, but we had to actually have a small plane come and pick us up from the Catholic Rescue Mission and fly us into, Cameroon eventually, just to get out of the country, because we couldn't go back through, because they were having this big war started again in Bangui, in the capital. So while we were there, there was a guy that the outfitters had all hired that was a Russian mercenary that was using an ultralight to shoot poachers, and the army was coming in from Sudan and poaching elephants and bushmeat, and the camp had been raided by some of the Janjaweed guys. So while I'm there and I'm working on another hunting book, I'm going, wait a minute, I've got half the material, if not more, for a novel just from what happened in the last 2 weeks. So you throw a beautiful woman in there and some characters that I had to change their names, because some people that when they read them said, that guy that's the bad guy that you're talking about reminds me a lot of so-and-so. I go, wow, amazing that you put that together. So I put a big disclaimer in there that, if you think you're one of the guys in here, you're not. Wink, wink. Enough characters in the hunting industry that all you had to do is change the names. But when you're describing somebody, I just, take somebody I knew and go, yeah, his name used to be Dennis and now it's Ahmed.
Awesome. Yeah, cool.
But they're adventure ones. You want to, get them for, if you're looking for something to take on a trip, and then they're in a series. So get them in order, or get all three while you're on there. What the hell? Get them all.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit here before we wrap up, just about, your conservation ethic. Ellen, you've always been a huge supporter of these different conservation organizations. That's my first experience with you, I think it was at Wild Sheep, running into you down there. You've always been such a stalwart of supporting conservation organizations. Not everybody is a J. Alain Smith. So what's the pitch? How can we get people more involved? How can we get people to be, to care? And a guy like you, you don't have to worry. You're always going to be able to hunt somewhere in the world. You're the last guy that should be standing up for needs to stand up for wildlife. But there you are. You're the guy that's giving. And we talk about time, talent, and treasure. You're not just the guy that's given, it's not just a paycheck for you. You're up on the stage, you're giving back, you're volunteering your time. So why is that so important to you? And I guess give us a bit of a pitch on why others should get involved.
The reality is that if you do this long enough, you see stuff come and go. The things that we used to be able to do, the things that we can still do. Yes, there are some new opportunities that are coming up as well. But what we have right now in America and Canada is we have a model that works so well, right? We have more of every species than we've ever had. And that model being used internationally is working also wherever it can be used. Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Tajikistan, Russia. They have these sustainable use conservation programs. And if we don't support them as individuals and we're not involved, it's going to go away. You can't buy, look at the bunny huggers, the World Bank and the World Wildlife Fund. Their method is to go in and just buy off locals or contribute a whole bunch of money to some area and then walk away and think that it's all just going to work. And if anybody that's spent over any time overseas, that's not what happens between corruption and everything else. So hunters being in the field is the biggest thing we can do to support local economies, because it's hands-on. We're there, we're participating, we're contributing locally at the local level, whether that's through providing jobs, whether that's through tips, whether that's through providing meat to villages, things like that. And that applies in the stands also in Russia. Subsistence hunting is a big thing, and you've got to control that to some point, right? It's one thing about eating local meat, but the markhor is the best conservation story of all time. These guys used to shoot markhors just for something to eat. To them, one man's endangered species is another man's breakfast. You just don't care because there's supposedly lots of them. And of course, the ones you're shooting are the easy ones, which are the females, and the little ones taste better than an old randy male. So by us going in there and putting a price tag on these various animals, it's worked. But I think as individuals, it's one thing to talk about international or the big picture. What's more important is our day-to-day lives of being hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen in our local economies and in our local hunting and public hunting areas and things like that, that we're out there, we're utilizing the resources, we're putting our best foot forward. Don't be that son of a bitch that's riding around in a pickup truck, throwing empty beer cans out the window on a logging road. You know what I mean? It drives you insane when you get up there and you see these guys, and they're really not hunters, right? They're just drunks that are up there making us all look bad. Be the guy that's out there that's, you're an ethical hunter, you're doing the best you can, you're getting your kids out, you're getting your neighbors out. Expand other people's horizons and get them out in the field as well. Women, maybe your wife doesn't want to go, but kids do, or the neighbor's kids do, or somebody at work wants to go. But, women and girls are one of our biggest growing areas of hunters these days. And it's important that they're out there as well. Give somebody else that's not in your immediate family an opportunity to go hunting. That's giving back right there. Because I can't tell you how many people I meet, living in the Seattle area, we have private land in that and hunting opportunities. And we have, of course, the whole forest of the Cascade Mountains. It's basically all public hunting. So it's possible to go. But how does somebody learn about it? How do they, besides going and getting their hunter safety education certificate and going and buying a rifle, now where do I go? How do I find a deer? How do I go bear hunting? How do I go rabbit hunting? They don't know anything. Yeah, you're not going to take them to your honey hole, but you can sure take them out and spend some time and get them involved. But that's the only way we're going to grow our numbers, is by getting more and more people involved, because as our numbers are going to shrink if we only keep to our immediate families, and you're growing up in the city, more and more people, we don't have the same, draw that we had from the farming communities of small towns. We've got to be proactive in doing that. So, and I just think it's important to give back. The biggest thing we can give is our time. We always need money for these programs, but people volunteering, be involved in local things. Take a night and go to your local statewide or countywide government meeting, right? This week they're deciding on what the limits are going to be on ducks, or what the fishing limits are, or anything like that. If you ever go to one, there's 2 hunters or fishermen, and there's 39 bunny huggers. And then you got some government bureaucrats that they really don't care, and nobody's there. So, shame on us. We wonder why we lose bear hunting in Washington State in the spring now. Nobody shows up. Now that's a bad example because we actually had hundreds of people that showed up for it and we still lost it on the last go round. But you know what I'm saying is that kind of participation is what we really need. We need to have our people in there too. So I just think that, getting involved. And by the way, being involved in the conservation organizations and the hunting organizations, what's funner than going to a convention?
Mhm.
I don't know. I go to them all
Mhm.
and work at almost all of them, but it's the best work there is. I mean, what's funner than seeing all these people, meeting new people, all like-minded, what a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point about getting involved, right? And I know Steve's got his mic off. He doesn't turn it off very often, but this is something him and I are both passionate about. It's like the world's run by people that show up, right? And it's like, I find, and I'll call our community out on this. I love what we do. I love who we are, but we need more involvement. People need to realize there's some things that we're going to lose, that we can lose. And if we're not proactive, if we don't show up, if we don't talk to the government, if we don't talk to our elected officials, we're in trouble. So anyway, you kind of got me going there, Alan. But.
Too many hunters say that, well, I bought a tag, I bought a license, I've given back. No, it takes more than that, right? We're seeing it up here with the wolf hunt. We saw it with the grizzly hunt, right? They're going to outnumber us. They're going to outspeak us. And we can't just sit back and say, well, we bought our tags, we bought our licenses, we're conservationists, and Kyle knows I'll continue to go on that for an hour, so you better stop me there. So
well, and on the other side of the coin too, I hear people go, well, that's not science-based and all that. Science-based is true, and it's our cannon fodder to use, but that's not what changes people's minds. It's the public in front of them. But also one other thing while we're on that, if I can, to get on my podium again, this hunter against hunter stuff is horse puck.
Yep.
All you guys that think that bow hunting is the best thing in the world and all rifle hunters are assholes, or the outside the fence guys hate the inside the fence guys, the duck hunters don't like the pheasant hunters, deer hunters don't like sheep. I mean, get over it. We're all in it. If you're a turkey hunter and that's all you do, that's great. And more power to you. But the same land that we're all going to save for turkey hunting is also going to have rabbits. It's going to have deer. If it's a bear area, it's going to have bears. It's going to have elk. You know what I'm saying? It's a big picture. We got to get over this nickel and dime. I've been at these meetings where, the fly fishermen are voting against the guys that are salmon fishing that use bait.
Yep.
What? Like, why? We're all in it together. The idea is to get more fish to come up the damn river so we can all catch them. If you want to fly fish, great. If you want to hunt with a bow, great. If you want to hunt with a crossbow and it's legal, whatever you want to do. But, that part drives me crazy. And here again, we're not powerful enough as a group, let alone to be in splinter groups.
Yeah. You see it all the time when somebody like yourself, for example, will post a kudu, and everybody in North America jumps on them. Well, why are you doing that? You're a trophy hunter. And they don't think of the economic value and the food value and everything that goes into it. And yeah, it's same team. I don't care how you hunt. You do it legally, you do it ethically. I'm going to back you every time. We need to do more of that.
And hunting and fishing and being in the outdoors is what we all get to do after we work our butt off all week. And it's supposed to be fun. So let's not get too carried away with our holier than thou, philosophies. This is fun. This is what we do. That's what it's about. And if you're taking it too seriously and you got a chip on your shoulder,
Yeah. Well said. Well, yeah, well said. Okay, so one more. I got to ask you one thing I meant to ask earlier. What's caliber now? I know you've got many, but if you're out on a mountain hunt for an ungulate, say sheep, goat, whatever the case may be, what's your go-to caliber today? I know you've used hundreds over the years, and you're always using the latest and greatest. 7 mil. Okay, cool. I was curious.
I'm actually a 3 caliber guy. That's it. I use a 7 mil. I use, which, Here, let me get some hate mail going. It's the greatest caliber ever made, and it will outshoot any other caliber on the face of the earth. There you go. Send me your no. And I use a 375. I used to shoot an H&H all the time, and now I've been shooting a 375 Ruger.
Okay.
On, big stuff, and then I shoot a 577 for really big stuff. So
Cool.
I've never been a caliber guy. I'm semi kidding about the 7mm, but really not. But I'm not a switch guns just to switch and see what this one does. I'm kind of like I like to have a gun that I know, and I know where it shoots and what it's going to do, and quality bullets, and everything will roll over. So
Awesome. Cool.
And I like consistent calibers that you can buy. Hey, if you're a reloader and you don't care, great. Do a 329 HPC or whatever they are, and great, go for it. Not knocking it, but I just don't have time to do any of that stuff. And I grab a box of shells that I know works, and I'm gone.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a 7 STW, which was super cool. I loved it, but I couldn't get ammo. I'm like you. I don't have the time or intuition to inclination to reload, and just I ended up I don't use it anymore because of that, but it was a great little rifle. So,
and I don't think it matters too much as long as it's got enough horsepower for what you're hunting. 7 will kill anything, but the big thing is practice. You got to go out and shoot. You got to be super comfortable with your gun, get your trigger lightened up, so you're not flinching or yanking it. Just know it, practice with it dry. I see so many guys will show up in an African camp, here they're going on the safari of a lifetime, and they've got a new gun and they've sighted it in, and that's it. And if it's a big caliber, they're probably going to be afraid of it. I just finished an article for the new book about buffalo talking about the 416, and great round in the right hands, but a 416, all of them, I don't care if it's a Rigby or whatever, it kicks like a mule. And I've killed a few buffalo with them, and I'm used to heavy calibers just out of habit, but don't go anywhere with a 416 until you've shot, a 375 or a 330. You want to work your way up, because the last thing you want to do is be flinching when you're shooting.
Yeah, especially at a critical moment where you got to keep buffalo bearing down on you, and yeah, you're on the hunt of a lifetime on a $50,000 hunt, and you yank it 2 feet. Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Well, Alain, I can't thank you enough for making this work. I know you're a busy guy, so just thank you so much for taking the time, and just thanks for what you do for conservation, what you do for our hunt space, and what you do for hunters. We appreciate everything.
Thanks for all you guys are doing, and keep up the good work. And I look forward to seeing you at the shows.
Likewise, looking forward to it.